Hi, my name is Thomas. I am the father of Ziggy. Ziggy is 21 years old and she is diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. We have been in OPUS for 2 years and this is a year ago now, and we're both part of the OPUS panel who are doing talks on how to live schizophrenia, how to be a relative to schizophrenia, and how we deal with the stigma of the disease. Through OPUS, I discovered my role regarding Ziggy's disease. To begin with, I was looking left and right for answers and solutions, and then it dawned on me that I had one thing that nobody else had, and that was that I was Ziggy's father, that I could be helpful in ways that nobody else could, that I was Ziggy's closest relative, and that through my engagement and through my day-to-day talks and being around Ziggy, I could be helpful, supporting, and also how to deal with her symptoms and her progress in the treatment. And in this way, I came very close to my daughter. And I think that was the biggest revelation for me, is that I sort of put aside trying to be a psychiatrist, trying to be a nurse, and that I focused on that one thing that I had the upper hand in, and that is being Ziggy's father. What really changed in the relationship between me and Ziggy during her time in OPUS, and also in the year that has gone by afterwards, is that I became more attentive to her daily needs, that my part in her treatment and my part in her life became very important. And I think that where I was initially, I felt a lot of shame that I wasn't able to see that my daughter was schizophrenic, that I should have seen it earlier, I should have done something. I think coming to terms with that really changed our relationship, because I realized that I had done the only thing I could do so far, and now that our conditions had changed, what I could do now was actually change with it. So I became and have become a more attentive parent. I know my child very well. It has also affected my relation with Ziggy's younger brother, in the way that we talk about how we feel, and that we've created a space where it's allowed to have a bad day, it's allowed to be sad, it's allowed to be confused, it's allowed to be anxious, it's allowed to be scared, and that we can talk about things that I would before have deemed sort of unpleasant, but to realize that part of dealing with this and part of this treatment was coming to terms with my own shame about not being the perfect father. And I think that in doing so, I've become the perfect imperfect father, in realizing that I make many mistakes and I will make many mistakes, but I can only do what I do by being aware and being open to what my child comes and tells me. One of the things that we did was, instead of taking the negative connotations about schizophrenia, and trying to develop our own language around it, I said to Ziggy, let's look at this as a smoke alarm. Let's treat this as you have now a super sense that tells you when enough is enough. It actually tells you before your system crashes that you have too much on your plate. That in the whole trying to balance the energy going in and out of your system, that this smoke alarm goes off way earlier than it does for anybody else. I wish I had that smoke alarm. Not schizophrenia, but I wish I had an alarm that told me way earlier, you are doing more than you're actually capable of. I mean, I haven't met a single person in my age, I'm 50, and I haven't met a single person who hasn't had a period in their life where they've done way too much and they ended up crashing and they had to, you know, we can call it stress, we can call it whatever we want to, but they burned out. And I think that the smoke alarm in this Ziggy installment has made it into something that we can talk about it in a positive way, where to infuse that as a superpower, that you are able to sense when enough is enough before it actually crashes your system, if you allow yourself to listen to it. Now, we still fall off the rails sometimes. We still meet symptoms every now and then. We still talk about, you know, how does the medicine work? How does school work? Ziggy is now, you know, she's 21 years old. She studies at the Technical University in Copenhagen. She lives by herself with her girlfriend, and in many ways has a perfectly normal life. And when she's symptom-free, you know, everything is possible. She's just 21 and she wants to do all the fun things that anybody else who's 21 wants to do. And so to have that realization that you actually have that smoke alarm, smoke detector that goes off inside you and says, just wait a second. You're pushing beyond your limits now, and you need to stop and you need to recalibrate. And that's what we still do together. She still contacts me and says, Dad, we need to look at my schedule, because there's something, you know, I'm starting to get a little paranoid. I'm starting to get a little anxious. There's little voices here and there. And that's how we recalibrate all the time to, and what Ziggy has learned through OPUS is actually to detect that and to listen to that smoke alarm. To say, oh, okay, so this is what's going on. Now we need to do something before it crashes. So to have the energy balance of what is coming in, what's going out, that's a huge part of what I have contributed to, and really its basis is the basis for most of our conversations when it comes to her condition, her disease. And we talk about all sorts of other things, you know. What are we gonna make for dinner? You know, have you seen this new jacket? Have you seen this TV show? Have you heard this album? But that smoke alarm is there, and we have decided that we're gonna listen to it and use this as a positive tool in the treatment. To try and explain the room that we have sort of built within our family where you can share. One of Ziggy's symptoms, she didn't have many, but she had a few voices. She had a background noise, and then she had one voice that was very painful for her. And it was a voice that kept saying, you can't figure anything out, you're stupid, you're ugly, you know, why are you even here? And the really hurtful thing for Ziggy in that was that voice belonged to me. And when she shared that with me, she accompanied with the saying that, I know that you've never said this, but she really wanted, I think she wanted to emphasize that how hurtful that voice was, and also what I had to work with, because I also know that I've never said that to Ziggy, but instead of trying to explain it, I had to comfort, or not comfort, I had to come to the fact that this must be very, very painful for my child to have my voice inside her head saying, "You're stupid." And it also, made me realize the pain that she's living in before the medicine started working, before the whole energy consumption started working, before the treatment started working. She was living this, and this voice was there pretty much all the time. And thankfully that voice is no longer there. And I realized it's one of the things that I really had to come to terms with, because it hit me hard, but it also, it also emphasized how painful it was for my daughter to be in the world, and why she really didn't want to be in the world. I found that one thing that's very important to realize is that there is a huge shame with disease, and that one of the first things that I came in touch with was my own view of schizophrenia, that I couldn't make it fit on my child, because schizophrenia was something that was dangerous. There was people stabbing other people, and people being locked up and tied down, and that the stigma on this disease came from myself as well, and that part of the shame that was built up inside of me also kept me from talking about it. And I found that I was really, really vulnerable, that our little family was shaken, and the foundation in our family was sort of moving. And luckily I had the sense to reach out to my workplace, to my family, to my friends, and through that I work with that shame, that coming out with the words, "My daughter has paranoid schizophrenia," and then meeting people who embraced it and who said, "Oh my God, that must be very hard for you." And when somebody says that, it makes the tears flow, because it was very hard, and at times it still is. But I think that part of realizing that when you start up, and just before the diagnosis come, and through that whole feeling that you're not haven't been a great parent, that whole thing where you want to you want to fix it, and you can't fix this, and you feel inadequate in this, that I'm supposed to be able to take care of my child. I'm supposed to be able to not have anything bad happen to my kid at all, anytime. And I know that that's an illusion, but as a parent, that's what we come with. And so realizing that, talking about it was very powerful, that I could soothe, and I could get through my shame by actually sharing my story. And through that also taking the shame out of my child, and just have it be inside a completely normal conversation, that, well, the conditions in my family is so and so, and the conditions in your family is so and so. And how do we deal with it is actually the issue, not what it's called. That when we, in my family, of course we have shifted the focus, and of course this diagnosis has changed our lives, but at the same time it has given us a contact and a closeness that we did not have before, and it has given us an opportunity to have something very meaningful in our relationship. And the meaningfulness is not schizophrenia. The meaningfulness is the connection that we have with each other because we've gone through it and because we need, it's an absolute necessity that we talk to each other and that we listen. And that has taken away my shame, and that has made me less vulnerable, because it has created a foundation where I now believe that I'm doing the best I can, that I do what I can, and that I'm very clear with people around me who does not accept this as something that is in my life. I mean, if you can't, you don't have to understand it. I don't understand it. I don't have schizophrenia, but I have to accept the fact that it's real and that it's happening. So I don't doubt that my child has schizophrenia. I accept that that's the condition now, and it's what I do with it that I focus on. And that has taken away my shame. I think it's important to realize that when you start in the diagnosing process and when you start in OPUS, that at that point in time you are extremely vulnerable as a person, as a family, and you're coming out of a very confusing state where you don't know what's up and down. In my case, I had a child who had anxiety attacks and who had thoughts of suicide, and where I had to have some really heavy talks with her, telling her who would miss her if she wasn't here anymore. And I think I wish I'd known how liberating the diagnosis was for me, as a, because all of a sudden it was something that the heaviness of getting the diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenic, which it's a heavy one. As a parent, it felt like somebody put, 1,000-kilo rock in my lap, and I felt numb. But I also realized really fast that now there was actually something that we could do. And I think that what I did in the process, where I put aside trying to be a psychiatrist, trying to be a shrink, trying to be a nurse, trying to be a social worker, where I put that aside. I think I did it pretty fast, but I wish that sooner I had come to the realization within myself of what it was that I could do, that I could be a parent, that I could be that one thing that nobody at OPUS could. And how that played in so well with what OPUS is doing, because it is this broad spectrum of all these people who knows all these different things. And then I'm that added leg on the chair. I'm the parent. I am the relative who can provide information, who can provide comfort, who can provide a room 24/7. I mean, we know that that when we go to whatever option it is we have for treatment, this is people who has this as a job, right? They have holidays, they have weekends, they have, whatever it is. And as a relative, you have no breaks. You are in it all the time. So that time being spent at what is the most meaningful to spend it on, which is being a relative and not trying to be a shrink and trying to, figure out doses of medicine or whatever it is. To know that, come to the acceptance of the fact that this is how it is, and this is what I can do, this is what I can help with. I can help you with what stresses you, what makes your life not function on a practical level. I can help you with your energy consumption or usage, or what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what do you need, what do you not need. Those are things I can do something about. And to know what to do with my 24/7 time has been very, very helpful for me. Also because in that I realized that I also need to rest, that I also need to have spaces for me with outside of the disease, and also knowing that this is the condition now. This is a condition in my family, and I would trade anything to not have my kid have schizophrenia, but she does, and that's how it is now. So we have to get the best out of that.